So these Ensignor LED lights are really easy to install, but you do need a few tools and you need some special hardware to install. So I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. I've installed most of these already. I've got a couple left. I'm going to show you in this video exactly how they go in. It's pretty easy. You can do it yourself. So I've got a kitchen remodel going on right now, and you can see I've got a few of these installed. They're a 3000 Kelvin color temperature, so it's a great color temperature for a kitchen where you want nice bright light, but not too cold. You want that little bit of warmth. So here's the box they come in. So you get 12 in the box. So here's one of the recessed lights here. So this is what is going to be exposed, and then this part clips up into the ceiling. So it does come with a plastic protective film on it, but I do recommend taking that off before you put it in the ceiling. Now, one really important thing is you need to use a 105 millimeter hole saw to drill the holes for these lights. So they are called 4-inch lights, but you need to go a little bit bigger. So it ends up being 4 1/8. So that is really critical. Otherwise, when you try to put the light in, these springs are going to hit the edges of the holes. So you can see how low profile this is. This is a piece of 1/2 inch sheetrock, which is your typical thickness for ceilings. And so you can imagine if there was a hole drilled here, the spring, when you pop it up through the hole, the spring is what holds it in place. And I really like how strong this spring is. I've used other similar type of recessed lights, and the spring is really weak and the light ends up sagging over time. But these springs are really strong. They have a lot of strength in them, but they're not too hard to install. You do kind of have to get this up like this and then pop it up into place. You'll also notice that there's a gasket, so that's going to help air seal your ceiling assembly. So this is like a rubber gasket, which is really important to have. Now, the light is low profile, but you also have another object that needs to go in the ceiling. So this isn't the only thing that needs to go in the ceiling. So the light needs to be installed with a separate junction box. So all the junction boxes are included for the lights, but this basic pair is what will give you one light, essentially. So you basically install the junction box, and then the wiring harness looks like this. And it's really easy to make sure you're putting this in the correct way because there's a little notch at the bottom of the wiring harness that lines up with this little groove right here. And there's also arrows that are pointing to each other, so you know you have it aligned properly. And then all you do is you slide this down. And actually, by the way, there's a little gasket. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little gasket in there too to help seal moisture. And then once you screw this on here, you can get it just finger tight, and that's gonna seal that connection and make sure moisture is never an issue for this connection. But that's kind of the last step you do before you pop the light in. So the first thing is the junction box. Now, in order to install this correctly, you're going to need cable connectors like this. So you're gonna pop out one of these knockouts, and I'll tell you exactly which one you should do. But this basically opens up, it's on a hinge. There's this little door on this hinge, and that exposes the wiring harness. Now, one thing that's cool is you don't need wire nuts to connect these wires. It comes with this special connector. All you do is push the wires in place once you've stripped your wire that's supplying the power to the light. So to put on one of these cable connectors, you want to pick which knockout to remove. And so you're going to need a flathead screwdriver to do that. I recommend doing the knockout on the other side of where the wires are. And you just put the flathead screwdriver in here like this, bend it in, and then just kind of wiggle back and forth, and it comes off. And you can just dump it out just like that. Then you unscrew this right here, pop it in the hole, and then put this back on the other side. So you're You're gonna just get it finger tight at first. So that's on there like that. And then grab a pair of pliers and then just turn this while holding the nut in place and tighten down. So now this is sturdy and it's not gonna unscrew. All right, so let's go ahead and install this. Now these can be installed as either a retrofit in an existing ceiling or as a new construction. And what I ended up doing was I actually installed the gypsum without cutting out the holes. I actually cut out the holes later. And so that just made the installation of the drywall a lot easier. And I just made sure that when I ran the wires, I lightly tack those in place against the joist up above the ceiling so they wouldn't get pinched when the drywall was installed. And so this junction box just gets basically connected to those wires, and then the junction box just sits inside the hole. You just pop it inside the hole and it just sits there. Now it does have these screws so you can kind of mount it to a joist or something ahead of time, but I actually recommend doing it this way where you drill the holes after the fact. It just makes the drywall process a lot easier. Now, one of the most important things you need to do is make sure you're not working with live wires. So right now, this is live. So this is the Southwire tester. So this is live. As you can see, I'm demonstrating these lights. So let's go ahead and turn that off. So you always want to test wires when you're working on them to make sure they're not live, and turn off the circuit at the circuit breaker. So you want to strip the insulation jacket about 3.5 inches. That's going to give you a good amount of wire inside the junction box. So here we have, so I have 2 wires coming into the junction box here because this continues off to that light right there, and then it goes to that light right there. And the connectors provide plenty of connections, so you can connect up to 3 wires to these connectors. And so you're going to connect all of the white wires to this one, all the black wires to this one, and all the ground wires, the bare wires, to this one. So you don't need any special tools to connect these. The wire literally just pushes right in here. I can't really do it with one hand here up on the ladder, but I put one in already, and you can kind of see how far in it goes into this connector. So once you have all the wires connected, you just tuck everything right back into the box and then close the lid. So the lid should snap in place. Make sure that's closed. And now we can connect the light. You want to make sure you remove this prior to putting it in. All right, so that's it. That one is installed. Now the user manual that comes with this is actually pretty decent quality. There's good explanation in here on everything I talked to you about. It's a nice full color instruction manual, and they offer a pretty nice warranty as well. So that's my review of the Ensignor 4-inch ultra thin recessed lights.